Hi, it's Michelle Anderson of Clarinet Mentors, and in today's training video, I want to teach you 5 best habits to help you practice your way to clarinet success. Most of us who play a musical instrument do it because we love the music. We have music that inspires us and probably songs that we want to play and work on. And so to that end, I'm sure there's some music that you spend time practicing to play it as well as you can. And you also probably practice some of the basic fundamentals of the instrument. Well, here's something that's really important to know. I've been teaching for 30 years, and I find that most people inadvertently end up spending most of their practice time reinforcing all their bad habits. And without realizing it, they're putting in further blocks to their progress. So I want to help you change that. I want to give you some new ways to approach practicing so that you speed up your success and you quickly get to where you want to play the best music possible. And aside from that, you might be wondering why I have a lizard on my head. Well, I'm kind of excited because one of my favorite concepts of practicing well relates to lizard brain. And we're going to talk about that later in this video. Let's talk about good habit number 1. Start your practice session mindfully, not mindlessly. Now, what do I mean by this? When we learn a musical instrument, so many parts of our brain are activated, and that's one of the reasons it's such a rewarding endeavor. But our brain is always kind of making notes and noticing what we're doing, and if we can harness that power, we can use it to practice really well. On the other hand, we could be sending the wrong message to our brain, and here's an example of that. A lot of times I see people open up their case, put together their instrument, and then they just kind of throw it in their mouth and randomly play a few notes. And that's probably their routine when they first get started. I pick it up, and then they're ready to start their practice routine. So what just happened? I just played a few seconds of somewhat mindless stuff. I wasn't paying attention to my posture. I wasn't really paying attention to my air. I was just kind of mindlessly moving my fingers around. Part of my brain gets the message that it's okay not to have good posture. It's okay to play without very good air. And really, who cares if we're really paying attention to what we do? Now, I might seem like I'm being dramatic here, but no, I'm not. It's a physical endeavor and it's a mental endeavor, and to succeed, we want to have the best habits right away. Instead, if we start our practice session with something where we have purpose and intent, we're going to get our brain into learning active mode right away. It's like we're saying, hey, pay attention, I'm trying to learn here. So one of the best clarinet warm-ups I know of is to do mindful long tones. And I have a whole video about long tones, and I'm going to post the link here for you to look at. But simply, it's one of exercise that we can use where all of our focus is on air support and tone quality. And it's one of the most valuable skill builders to help you become a better player. But more than that, it starts your session with your brain warming up and kind of telling yourself that you're trying to improve right from your first note. So watch yourself. Next time you put your instrument together, instead of just randomly play some notes, I challenge you to start with that long tone where before it goes in your mouth, you're thinking, good embouchure, good posture, good air. And you go through the exercise as it's designed. When I have a new student come into my clarinet studio here, and I ask them to go ahead and start the way they normally would, I can tell just by listening to that first 30 seconds all of their bad habits. And I know I'm going to see those bad habits in everything that they do. So I want you to think about that. Your first 30 seconds can be reinforcing bad habits or creating some fantastic new ones. Great habit number 2 to help you get success on the clarinet is to divide your practice session into purposeful sections. And probably the most important one is that 1/3 of your practice time should be just working on fundamental skills of the instrument. So this is generally where you're not even looking at your music or repertoire, you're just working on a good habit, and this should be at the beginning of your practice session. So, like good habit number 1, where we start with purpose, you'll start with long tones and such, we're kind of going to carry that over into the first third of our practice session. That could be finger exercises, finger patterns, it could be articulation patterns, kind of all the basic physical fundamentals. That should be about 1/3 of your time. So if you think you're going to practice for half an hour, 10 minutes is fundamentals. If you're going to practice for 3 hours, then you do an hour of fundamentals. All of this is really the building blocks to helping you learn the instrument in a really good way. Now, another way I would say we can divide our practice time is when you are in the repertoire section of your practice time. Let's say there's a piece of music that you're working on. What I find is really efficient is I will practice a section of my music with a different focus each time I play it. So I'll sit down and I'll look at it and I'll ask myself what my challenges are in that piece of music. And I might decide, wow, this one has some really hard, fast fingering. And gosh, because that's so hard, I don't even really spend any time thinking about the style, but how do I want it to sound? And then I might decide there's some hard tonguing. So I have 3 focuses. The first time through, I'm going to put all of my attention into that finger practice. And that might mean I stop and take a short section and do all of the usual finger practice skills we can have. And I'll put a link down below to some videos that give you pointers on that. And then the next time through, my whole focus might be the musical style and the phrasing, and I'll do things simply related to that. And then the third time, my focus will just be articulation. And the theory here is that we're putting all of our brain energy into one focus so that we do it really well. But as we learn it, our subconscious brain learns it, that's going to carry through into our practicing when we start switching focus. And hopefully at the end of that, I'll go through and play the music, and all 3 of those areas will be noticeably improved. Good clarinet practice habit number 3 is beware of lizard brain mistakes. Now you may be saying, what's lizard brain? Well, there are different definitions of it, but my working definition of lizard brain as it relates to learning a musical instrument is that there's a very primitive part of our brain that controls our automatic movement. Kind of like if I asked you to walk across the room, you would get up and do it very easily. You probably wouldn't be thinking, oh, I have to move my hip and shoulder this way to counterbalance the weight because my knees just flexed in such and such a way. Lizard brain handles all of that for you. At one point, when you were very little, you tried to walk and it was a lot of work and you experimented, and lizard brain learned it and now it handles it for you. Well, lizard brain handles an awful lot of things for us when we play a musical instrument, and that can help us, and that can also get in our way. And my guess is you regularly have all kinds of lizard brain mistakes in your life that you're not aware of. And if you can notice them, it's one of the most powerful ways to improve your playing. So let me give you an illustration of a lizard brain mistake. Most people, when they're working on a piece of music, will recognize if they've played a wrong note. Our conscious brain will go, oop, and our instinct is to correct it to go to the right note, and then we move on. So here might be an example of that. Dope. And I feel satisfied because I made a wrong note, but I noticed it, I fixed it, and I moved on. Now a funny thing happens the second time I play the music. This is what happens. Dope. Conscious brain says, oh, made a mistake. There's a little one. I fixed it. Went on. Lizard brain says, yeah, I got it mastered. And what does it mean? Lizard brain cannot consciously tell the difference between the right notes and the wrong notes, which conscious brain does. All lizard brain knows is we played the piece the exact same way twice, and it's got it programmed. You have about a 99% chance of making that mistake again the next time. And lizard brain thinks the song goes right notes, wrong note, dope, right note, and move on. And that's what you've programmed. And I see this time and time and time again. It's almost a running joke in my teaching studio, because if someone plays something for me, I might forget to mention they made a little slip, and I hear them do it a second time and the same slip is there. I'll go, oh, lizard brain mistake, and they'll be like, oh. So what you need to do is when you make a mistake and you're practicing, don't just move to the correct note and move on. You have to program lizard brain to play that note correctly. That means if I make that mistake, instead of just going dope and fixing it, I need to now play it with the right notes several times. So usually I'll just back up a little ways, and I will emphasize the right note, and then I'll do it again. And because lizard brain learns in patterns and repetition, I want to play it correctly 3 to 5 times, or until it feels really easy. If it feels like I'm thinking and struggling, I haven't got it in lizard brain yet. Once it feels easy, I do it a couple more times. There I am emphasizing what I want lizard brain to do. And I do that 3 to 5 times, and I fix it. So here's the kind of things people say when they have a lizard brain mistake. They'll say, I don't know why I always make a mistake there, or why do I always play F sharp? So if you catch yourself with that kind of language, you probably have a lizard brain mistake. And if you recognize it, you can fix it. Now, close on the heels of habit 3 is great habit number 4. Harness the power of lizard brain. And I was just alluding to it in our last habit. Because lizard brain learns things so powerfully and so well, what you can think of is that you have this section of your brain called lizard brain. And if you learn something and repeat it enough times and learn it well, you can throw it into lizard brain, and conscious brain doesn't have to worry about it anymore. It's like you're playing in autopilot mode. And wouldn't it be wonderful if all those things that you have to think about that give you trouble all went over into the autopilot part of our brain? Learning an instrument is like this. So what would be an example? Anything in music that's a pattern, you can toss into lizard brain. Finger patterns. That's why a lot of musicians end up playing scales, or even just a 5-note pattern. Do 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 dee do 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 do. If I do that 5 notes, it's 5 to 8 times until I feel internally that shift. It feels easier. I've got it in lizard brain. So many pieces of music and repertoire are based on scale patterns and arpeggio patterns. That's why we take the time in our fundamental section to learn those patterns. And not just to learn them once, but to play them over and over again until I can sit there and play a very challenging scale and kind of be wondering what I'm going to have for lunch. Now, I don't want to contradict our first habit, which was to be mindful, but I do want to say that we want to get things into that unconscious part of our brain so that our mindful brain can think about other things. The other kinds of patterns we should be looking for are finger patterns, articulation patterns, so that's tonguing with different accents and slurs and staccato and all of that kind of thing. We should also be looking at rhythm patterns. A lot of people find rhythm challenging, and having a system for practicing rhythms and getting that into lizard brain will greatly improve our musicianship and our clarinet playing. Great habit number 5 to help you in your practicing for success on clarinet is to always get feedback on how you're actually doing. Now, this could be with a live person. A great way to do that is to take lessons with an expert. But there are other ways you can do this. Recording yourself is a fantastic habit. If you can do it by video on your computer, that's simple and easy. And watch yourself and listen. When you watch yourself, look at your physical habits. Do you have good posture? Are your fingers staying arched and close to the instrument? All those sorts of things. Listen to yourself. Is your air doing well? Is your tongue doing well? Recordings are a great way to do it. You can also just sit down with a trusted friend and play for each other and get feedback that way. But it's really important that we have a way of noticing what we're doing. And in most cases, we're just not aware enough to catch all of our habits live as they happen. But if we look back on a recording, we'll definitely pick it up. Then we can choose what to improve, try it, and record ourselves again and see if there's a difference. All of these things will help you to create new good habits. And really, the flip side of that is we don't want to be reinforcing our bad ones. So these techniques help you avoid continuing to do bad habits. They help you notice your bad habits, and they help you replace them with good ones. So I want you to try this in your practice routine, and I'd love to hear how it goes. You can put your comments here on this YouTube page, or send me a video to Clarinet Mentors. And if you're not a part of the Clarinet Mentors community, it's really easy to join. You can just go to www.learnclarinetnow.com, and you'll get all kinds of useful information designed to help you play the clarinet more easily. I look forward to seeing you on our next video.